want to thank the Business Resource Collective for asking me to be here today. If we haven't met yet around town, my name is Nora Montagna. I'm so honored to be here, and the topic that I chose today when Tiffany asked if I could come and chat with y'all was how to attract your ideal client on social media. And there's a reason I use the word attract, not just connect with or reach, because there's a very big difference between reaching someone and talking to someone on social media and reaching out and messaging them and having people come to you. And that is really where my heart is at when I'm helping entrepreneurs with social media, because it really takes away that whole salesy, weird feeling when you're not the one reaching out and they are reaching out to you. And there's a way to talk to people in a way that makes them go, I feel like she's talking directly to me in her post. I want to reach out to her. So I'm going to give you all a really cool exercise that's going to be really valuable for your business, that you'll be able to take this and today apply it to how you're writing your posts. But first I wanted to share a little bit of a backdrop on why I came to the realization that this was so necessary, not just for myself, but for so many entrepreneurs out there. So I'm just going to share a really brief background on how I got to this point. Back in my 20s, honestly, since I was 16, I was working in the corporate world. That was really, I've always loved working. I've loved the productivity of it, the energy of it, working with people, getting up in the morning and going to do something. I've always enjoyed working, and I was in the corporate world for about 15 years. To be honest, I felt like my soul died quite a bit in the corporate world. It always felt like there was someone else's agenda that I had to be working with and building their dream, rather than really just going and doing it on my own. I also spent in my 20s about 8 years with chronic illnesses, and I was very, very sick on a pretty regular basis. When I look back on that time in my life, I feel like I was sleepwalking. I don't even have a whole lot of memories from that time in regards to the work that I was doing. It felt like I was living in black and white. Something that I really desire for people is for them to be able to wake up and to be able to live life fully in color. And when I think back on that time, you know, my marriage, my friendships and all of that were great, and I have fantastic memories from that. But when I think about what I was getting up to go and do every day, I hated it most of the time. And one of my favorite questions to ask people is not just what do you do with your time every day, what do you do for a living, but do you love it? Does it make you come alive? And if you could do anything you wanted to in the entire world, what would it be? Sometimes that makes people cry because it kind of taps into their soul and they realize it's so far from what they're actually doing now. When I got to the point that we decided to start traveling, my husband was a registered nurse, and he decided right in our early 30s that we really wanted to travel. We wanted to go meet all sorts of new people, have all sorts of new adventures and experiences. So we sold everything that wouldn't fit into our RV, and we got on the road and have been living the travel RV life for 5 years. We've been here in Cookeville, Tennessee for a while just because we've kind of fallen in love with it, and it's kind of pulled us in. But we decided no more mundane. We were done with it. We both believed we deserved to do what we love and to get paid for it. So we decided to start traveling. And when we got on the road, I only had a few months at a time max in any given place. So I wasn't going to just pick up random jobs and go through the training just to leave, weeks later. I realized I can do whatever I want. What is it that I want to do? That brought me into the field of holistic medicine and holistic healing in general. Everything I do really revolves around helping people live their most abundant lives. But I have a really big focus on holistic health, and my practice now is in intuitive healing. This was about 5 years ago. The first few years I did everything in person, like boots to the ground, no social media, nothing online, no website. For those of you who have done that, give me a little fist bump out there through the screen. I know you know how hard that is. It's a grind. It is so many more hours than what you would need to put in if you're doing things through social media to reach your clients. And I did it for a few years until I got pregnant, and I was like, oh, this is why people don't do this. There's not enough time in the day. There's literally no way to be able to run my business the way I had been, old school, and keep moving forward and growing and scaling it the way I wanted to. I realized I needed to move onto social media. I wasn't even on Facebook up until a few years ago. Once I got on there and I saw people who were running their businesses, all types of businesses, through social media, the vast majority of things that I saw revolved around cold messaging people or sending random friend requests. It was all about this chasing people. And frankly, people that I saw, a lot of them were driving their friends and their family crazy in their contacts on social media. They were getting blocked. I looked at it all and I said, I don't want to be a part of this. I want to be virtual. I want things to be more simple, but there would be no joy in running my business that way. And for me, it's not just about growing and scaling a business. It's about doing it in a way that I feel proud of, that feels professional, and also in a way that brings me joy. That was really important for me. I knew that there had to be a way I could do this. I invested time and money into myself to learn some skills through a marketing company. I'm actually coming up on my 2-year anniversary working with them. They showed me that it's possible to create an ecosystem. And this ecosystem on social media not just filters through people who are an ideal type of client to work with me, but entices them to reach out to me. So all 3 of my businesses are run in a way that people come to me. I don't ever prospect, which is really a foreign concept to a lot of people. Today, the exercise that I'm going to teach you, it's just the first of many steps, but it is a really good basic groundwork to lay down that you'll definitely find valuable and be able to use right away, because if you don't have this basic groundwork, the rest of it can all just end up being a big waste of time and money. So we're going to get started on that. I want you to picture for me your ideal client. Maybe it's someone you already work with, but when you think about the people that are involved with you in your business, pick your favorite one, the one who is always just a great time to be around, a good attitude, they have a good work ethic, whatever qualities make them important to you and enjoyable to you to work with, think about that person. It's really powerful when you build your social media presence and the way you speak to people around a very specific type of ideal client. Obviously, for some of us, depending on your business, that client is going to range a little bit wider than as specific as we're going to start with today, but it's good to get the specifics down and you know how to branch out from there then. When I write a post on social media, I talk directly to my ideal client, very, very, very specifically. My business, as I said, just as a little backdrop so you understand, we're going to use my business and my post today as well as my ideal client as an example, because I think it's important to have a very specific example when you're working on this. So I am an intuitive healer. My practice as an intuitive healer, in a nutshell, what I do is I help people to remove the emotional and spiritual blocks in their life and the old programs that that's trained into them in their childhood and throughout other areas of our lives as well, so that they can live their most abundant life. Many of us operate in these toxic cycles and programs that we want to get out of, but we literally don't know how to break them. And the reality is our subconscious is fully formed by the time we're 8 years old. We live off of the cycles of that subconscious 95 to 99% of the time. Our brain is just on this autopilot playing that. There are modalities and healing ways to be able to go into a deep meditative state and actually heal and reprogram and rewire our brain. It's super powerful, it's super cool, and that's what I do every day. My ideal client is a free thinker, and it's someone who wants to live outside of the box of these constraints of societal norms, cultural norms, and religious norms. It's not throwing all those things away, but it's free thinking outside of what other people are telling them. And they're also someone who wants to live life in full color, not being suppressed by these programs. That's my ideal client in a nutshell. We're going to dig into my ideal client as I show you how to write in a way that will speak directly to yours. There's really 4 categories, so if you want to get out either a laptop or a piece of paper, if you want to write old school, whatever works for you, we're going to have 4 columns. So I want you to go ahead and get 4 columns ready. When you think about your ideal client, the first column that you want to focus on is what are their dreams? What are their goals in life? What are the things that makes their soul just light up and come on fire and completely come alive? That's the first column you want to fill up. So a few examples for that column for my ideal client would be this. It makes her come alive when she gets to see other people tapped into their fullest potential. Her desire is to be fully known and to be able to have relationships that are abundant where she can actually trust people. That's a really important thing for my ideal client. She also desires to love and light up about what she does every day. She does not want to live a mundane life, and it's really important to her that she feels fulfilled, but more importantly, that she's impacting other people's lives in the actions that she's taking every day in her business. My ideal client is a mother. It doesn't mean I don't work with people who aren't mothers or who are men, but this is just the very specific type of person that I've noticed is attracted to the type of work that I do, so it's who I focus on. She's a mother And she also really has strong desires for a role outside of the home. And she loves her role in the home, but she also really wants to just impact thousands of other women and really help them along in their life journey. That's a snippet into that first column and just some examples of the important things and the things that make my ideal client come alive. So as you're thinking about your ideal client, really think about not just things they enjoy doing and their dreams, like, going on a vacation. Those are good. Those are important. I want you to dig deeper. Really think about the soul level of this person. Now, the second column is going to be kind of a converse of that. You're going to be talking about your ideal client's frustrations. My ideal client's frustrations are actually pretty similar to the ones that I used to face on a regular basis. Living a mundane life where everything just felt like it was the same thing every day. That's literally my worst fear, is being bored. Can anyone else out there relate to that? I absolutely hate being bored. So for me, the frustration that I had in my 20s was feeling like I was waking up and it was a different day, but it was the same cycles and the same issues with my health, with my relationships, with bosses at work, with just toxic people in my life. It was the same cycles, same, as I like to say, same crap, different day. That's how it felt. And that was very frustrating to me. I just had no idea how to break out of that before I began the healing process and the inner healing process. So my ideal client, her frustration would definitely lie in feeling like life is mundane. Her frustration also lies in people who are not straightforward. That's like a big thing for her. So I'm very straightforward in my posts. I make sure that I'm countering that. So you can go ahead and fill in the column for all of the frustrations that your ideal client feels on a regular basis. These are things that you want to be able to tap into and kind of hit the chords in their heart a little bit when you're writing about them, so they can say, man, like, she struggles with that too. So do I. That's crazy. Like, I can't believe someone else understands how I feel. A lot of times when I write a post, I'll actually cry or if I'm writing one of my ads, because that's the level of depth that I want to go to. A lot of people aren't willing to be that present and that vulnerable on social media. The ones who are willing to go this extra mile and not only be vulnerable, but take the time to write up a chart like this and filter your posts through this, those are the ones who really connect, and not just connect, but get their ideal client to reach out to them because they feel like they're speaking to them through the screen. The next column is really important. It's the thing that makes people say, I'm going to do that. I'm going to reach out to Nora today. Or if you're selling something, I'm going to buy that. It's the thing that makes them go, I have to move forward with the call to action on this post. And that is the column of people's fears. Now, it might sound terrible talking about someone's fears and kind of like triggering that, but it's not triggering something that they're not already aware of. It's waking them up to the reality of it. And that's something that most people don't take the time to do. A lot of the conversations in Messenger, when people reach out to me on social media, they end up kind of like tearing up throughout our conversation because if they reach out to me, I'm like, can I get personal with you? Like, I'm not good at small talk. My soul's going to talk to yours right away. And if you're not good with that, we're probably not a good fit, and that's totally okay. But this fears column, my biggest fear when I started out as an entrepreneur, and the first 2 years I built everything in person and realized it was going to completely fall apart, and a lot of it did, if I didn't get onto social media and move it virtual so that I could scale it in a more reasonable and sustainable way. I knew that if I didn't learn these new ways, that I was going to end up back in the corporate world. If I failed as an entrepreneur, I was going to end up back in the corporate world, and that scared the pants off of me. The thought of going back to other people's time schedules and not being my own boss and really listening to what someone else's dreams were and laying it out for them, and all of the things that come with working for somebody else and the loss of that autonomy, that terrified me to my core, and that's what pushed me into really making the decision to invest in myself, to learn skills like I'm teaching you today. That fear is really deep in the heart and soul of my ideal client, not necessarily in the business sense of going back to the corporate world, but going back to a life where they felt like they were on autopilot and where other people were basically spinning their world for them and they were just kind of in the middle of it spinning around. That's how most people feel when I meet them. And it's amazing to me because we can go our whole lives like that, but it's not living. So the fear for my ideal client that I really tap into is feeling like I'm going to look back in a year and these cycles will not have changed. My circumstances may have a little bit, but all those same cycles will still be playing out. That terrifies my client. And that's something that I do tap into in my posts. And again, it's not because I want to scare them or because I want to make them feel terrible the rest of the day, but I want to just gently tap them on the shoulders through the screen and say, hey, are you ready to wake up? And if they're not, that's cool. They read the post, they say, oh, cute picture, your baby's adorable. But if I tap on their shoulder and they're like, hey, what? Like, wait a minute, they're ready to wake up, then guess what? We get to work together. So that piece of that third column is really important. That's what's going to affect and impact your call to action in a huge way, is whether or not you've tapped into that. The last column is a little bit more lighthearted. You can kind of take a breath. These ones are it's intense, right? The last column is the lingo. So what type of language does your ideal client speak with? And I don't mean necessarily what language do they speak, but I mean, what are the terms that they use that maybe just them and their friends, they'd feel like they're sitting there talking with a friend when you say it. I say dude a lot, not because I'm trying to connect with people that say dude, but because we lived in California for a while. I just picked it up on the beach and it never left. I have kind of a weird, from living all over the place, sometimes people tell me I sound like I'm from New York City. Sometimes they say from the South because I say y'all, and then I throw dude in there and they're like, where are you from? So just speaking in a way where I'm not always trying to be so black and white and professional. Once I release that pressure of trying to be perfect and always speaking so that everybody feels comfortable and everyone can relate and everyone can resonate. Once I threw that away and said, I'm just going to talk to my people started flooding in because I talk like they do. That is so much more important than people could ever really understand or realize. It's the nuances in what we say that just draws them into the next paragraph and the next one. And then by the end, they're like, I feel like I've known you my whole life. Another way that I speak, I talk a lot about energy. I believe everything's made up of energy. I believe that we can heal with energy, we can harm with energy, and everything we do is impacting the energy of people around us. Someone might say, you're crazy, you're woo-woo. That's cool. You do you, I do me, you're not my ideal client. And I'm comfortable with that. Having that confidence to say, I know who I want to work with, I know who's going to be a good fit for me and my business as a client or as a partner, and then also I know how to speak to that person, that confidence really stands out because not a lot of people are doing it. There's an old mentality. We never got out of the 80s with our marketing. It was way, like old school was, hey, just talk to everybody. Make sure everyone can resonate with you. Make sure everyone feels comfortable around you. With all due respect, I say screw that. We are not in that century anymore. We really need to bring ourselves to a place where we respect our time and we only target to speak to the people who are going to be a good fit for us and to be kind and accepting of everyone else, but in a business sense, focus on that. I'm going to read a post for y'all right now, and I want to see if you can pick out each category from wherever you are right now on each column. See if you can find where I tapped into each one of these. And the first time you write a post and you're using this formula, you're going to be like, dang, that was so much work. I don't know if I can do that every time. But you know what? It becomes like a second language. I don't even use the columns anymore. I just know how to speak. And after you do it for a while, I've been doing it for a few years, it becomes your second language, how to speak to people on social media. So I'm going to read a post because I think having an example is really, really good. All right. I was booked up for the next few weeks, but I've opened up a couple more days to keep the sessions going. What have I been up to? Timeline therapy sessions, and it's incredible. I remember my first introduction to this modality. After years of working on my emotional and physical trauma, I felt like I was still spinning on an endless hamster wheel. I kept repeating and reliving the same cycles in life, just reinvented in different ways. Despite my efforts, I kept hitting the same walls in my business, my relationships, and my personal growth. I remember feeling like there was some invisible barrier to abundance, and guess what? There was. We've never really arrived in our self-work journey, hence the journey. However, I definitely feel a freedom now that I had never felt in the past. Now I'm helping fellow free spirits to unchain from past programs, emotional and physical traumas, and toxic mindset patterns. My soul really comes alive with every single session. Shoot me a PM if you'd like to chat more about what these sessions entail. I'd be honored to partner with you in your healing journey. This last sentence is what will get someone to read all this and either reach out or not. There is no reason to stay trapped in your same cycles for the next year. That's where you hit that and they say, if I don't message Nora right now, I could remain trapped in the same cycles for the next year. So those are the different categories played into a specific example for you. taking the time, the first time it'll take a few hours because you're going to be writing all of this out and then forming a post. Let your ideal client evolve as you start to realize who these people are that come to you. My ideal client looks very different than she did 2 years ago. I really started to understand who my people were as I understood myself more and healed more over the last few years. I really hope that this exercise is super valuable for you in your business. And there's also, this, like I said, is the groundwork. It is the first step. The next step is understanding the technology of how to get in the feeds of people so that you have people to see what you're putting out there to reach out to you. That is the next level, but you have to have this down first because it doesn't matter otherwise. My mentor has always said something that has just stuck with me, and that's what I want to leave you with. As an entrepreneur, your paycheck will be commensurate with the value you provide to people that are your ideal client and your target market. If you have tons of people reaching out, but no one's booking a session or buying or whatever, you're probably providing great value, but they're just not your people yet. So there's a way to really just feel that out on social media and say, am I talking to my ideal client and am I providing value? 95% of what I put out there on social media, I'm not trying to sell something. I'm not trying to just say, hey, book this with me. Here's my calendar. I'm providing them with value, with things that are going to really make their life come alive more. And when I am doing a live video or I post, I want the first thing someone says to say, I better go check that out because I know when Nora gets on here, she's not wasting my time. She's giving me something that will add value to my life. That's how you want people to feel about you. They won't necessarily remember most of what you say, but they will always remember how you make them feel. You can reach out to me if you would like to connect with me, whether you're needing help on the technical side of social media or you're looking really more for this part of it, someone to help you through really figuring out these charts and the emotional side of who your ideal client is. Or if I spoke today and you're like, shoot, I think maybe I want some intuitive healing. Whatever it might be, if you just want to talk or whatever, I am here to chat and to help serve you in any way I can. You can find me on Facebook, Nora Montagna. If you find me and send me a friend request, make sure you send me a message to introduce yourself and let me know that you saw this. I don't know if you're getting all those crazy friend requests, but it's a lot to weed through. So when someone sends me a message, I actually know it's a legit request. And then there on my personal profile, you'll be able to find my business page, Nora Montagna Inc. And on that business page, I have tons of trainings like this where you're able to get some free help on social media marketing. And you'll also see my group right below the page, and we are the Natural Nomads. That's where I share more of our intuitive healing journey, some videos in there to help with emotional and spiritual work, as well as just my journey as a mom and a full-time RVer who loves to travel and make the most out of life every day. Appreciate you being here. Much love to you, and I hope to see you around the community.